President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term by some in his ZANU-PF party, while some are vehemently opposed to the amendment of the Constitution to accommodate that. But first, a look at what is happening here in the United States of America. The Trump administration has ordered a 3-month pause on almost all foreign development assistance pending a review to see what fits under, quote, America First of court policy. Aid groups and human rights watchdogs warn that the move will put countless lives around the world at risk. VOA's Anita Powell reports from the White House.
The U.S. spent just short of $70 billion on foreign aid in fiscal year 2023, most of that through the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. The U.S. is the world's largest provider of humanitarian assistance and a global leader on HIV prevention and treatment through the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief Program, or PEPFAR.
We found solutions. We built new and diverse coalitions, and we worked together.
With a stroke of his pen, President Donald Trump put all but the most urgently needed food assistance on ice, part of his charge to realign the U.S.'s foreign stance with its America First policy. The order pauses new obligations and disbursements of development assistance funds for 90 days while they are reviewed. The White House laid out its rationale for a similar move, pausing all federal grants and loans starting on Tuesday, though Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt did not clarify which domestic programs are on pause.
The past 4 years, we've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country, and it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
The White House did not reply to VOA's questions for more details on which foreign assistance programs would be impacted. Humanitarian groups are sounding the alarm about the foreign programs, some of which focus on issues like gender equity, business development, and, critically, the provision of U.S.-funded HIV drugs, which Biden officials called a key pillar of Washington's relations with the developing world.
The Secretary General notes with concern the announcement of a pause in U.S. foreign assistance. He calls for additional exemptions to be considered to ensure the continued delivery of critical development and humanitarian activities for the most vulnerable communities around the world. Those lives and livelihoods depend on this support.
The largest single USAID project in fiscal year 2023 provided $14 billion in non-military assistance to Ukraine. Human rights watchdogs say they welcome robust accountability over U.S. taxpayer funds, but not pausing assistance during the review.
If you want to review all of the assistance, start your review. Be crystal clear on what you're looking at. Don't suspend life-sustaining and life-saving aid while you do that review.
And analysts expressed concerns about the immediate impact of the stop work order.
There are real concerns about the immediate impact of a stop work order on foreign assistance. We must remember that foreign assistance includes such humanitarian projects that relate to administration of vaccines, for example, to children around the world to make sure that they don't get communicable diseases.
On those global public health issues, Trump's stance is clear. He also announced on his first day in office that he would pull out of the World Health Organization, citing concerns that the U.S. is being ripped off as the organization's largest donor. He did the same during his first term. Anita Powell, VOA News, the White House.
According to recent reports, a large number of people are seeking refuge in neighboring Rwanda, primarily due to ongoing conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, with many fleeing to Rwanda to escape fighting between the Congolese army and M23 rebel groups, causing a significant displacement of people across the border. As the humanitarian crisis worsens, East African leaders are urging immediate action to bring peace and stability to the region. Salem Solomon has this report on the impact the conflict is having on civilians.
Gunshots echo through Goma, one of the largest cities in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as terrified civilians scramble for safety. The city and its surrounding regions are the latest epicenter of a conflict between the Congolese army and the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group, although Kigali denies its support for the group. This increase in violence has displaced thousands of people and prompted urgent regional diplomatic efforts, led by the current chair of the East African Community, Kenyan President William Ruto to address the crisis.
And we are all in agreement that now more than ever, it is an existential issue, not just for the people of Eastern DRC, but for this region. The situation in Eastern DRC now demands our collective focus.
The conflict is part of a broader war in Eastern DRC, where more than 120 militants and armed groups operate, often competing for control of the area's rich mines. North Kivu province, a long-standing flashpoint, has seen a surge in fighting, forcing people like Lomu Biondo Manuel to flee repeatedly.
We face a lot of hardships. We want to go back to our original homes. We want peace.
Another woman fleeing Mugwanga, one of the largest camps for displaced people near Goma, says civilians are caught in the crossfire.
We have nothing to give to our children that we are running with. We are just fleeing with nothing. It's all in God's hands. All we can do is run.
The United Nations says more than 5.5 million people are displaced in the DRC, many of them in North Kivu. Humanitarian organizations warn that the situation is deteriorating rapidly. Aid delivery has been disrupted by blocking routes and increased violence, leaving many without basic needs, says Save the Children's country director Greg Round.
This upsurge in fighting has killed children. Children have been caught up in it, killed through explosions. In addition, hundreds of thousands, 200,000 children displaced from where they're living, some displaced for a second and third time.
Humanitarian agencies say the needs far outweigh the available resources. And displacement isn't the only issue that children, women, and girls face in displacement camps, Ram says.
Sexual violence against women, girls, children is a serious problem. Rape is a weapon of war. Displaced people's camps can be terribly unsafe places. The numbers are overwhelming. And for each person we can help, and that the rest of the humanitarian community can help, we know that there are tens of others who are not getting the assistance they need today.
Despite calls for the UN and East African leaders for a ceasefire, the violence continues, leaving millions in limbo. Salim Solomon, VOA News.
Back to our topic of the day. Calls by some ZANU-PF members to allow President Emmerson Mnangagwa to continue after his mandated second term ends in 2028 have drawn sharp criticism from some people within the ruling ZANU-PF party, some war veterans who are known for openly supporting ZANU-PF, and some opposition parties. Some former freedom fighters on Monday and Tuesday this week said President Mnangagwa should step down, saying he is not fit to run Zimbabwe as he is allegedly surrounded by thieves. In what some view as a thinly veiled attack on the president, acting President Constantino Chiwenga on Monday warned those pushing the 2030 agenda, calling them corrupt individuals seeking to abuse Zimbabwe's Vision 2030. But Mnangagwa's supporters are urging him to seek a third term, even if he has already publicly announced that he does not intend to stay in office beyond his second term that ends in 2028. Tinogamuchira ine mufaro muchirongwa chinotarisa zviri kuitwa nevana veZimbabwe vari kunze kwenyika nevari munyika. Tinokokai zvakare kuti munge muchipinda muchirongwa nhasi tichiti tinzwe kubva kwamuri maonero enyu panyaya yasimudza gakava guru munyika, pamwe chete nemubato riri kutonga reZANU-PF nemamwe mapato anopikisa uye vesangano revakarwa hondo yerusununguko yekuti vaMnangagwa varambe vachitonga kusvika muna 2030, kunyanga hazvo bumbiro remitemo richiti vanofanirwa kutungamira nyika kusvika muna 2028 panopera temu yavo yepiri. Vamwe vakarwa hondo yerusununguko vakatobuda pachena svondo rino vachiramba urongwa hwekuti bumbiro remutemo rivandudzwe kuitira kupa mukana kuna vaMnangagwa hwekuti varambe vari panyanga, uko vamwe vemapato anopikisa vari kudyawo magaka mambishi vachiramba urongwa uhu, kunyanga hazvo kuine vamwe mumapato anopikisa imomo vari kutsigirana nevamwe mubato reZANU-PF kuti bumbiro remutemo rivandudzwe kuitira kuwedzera makore anogara vaMnangagwa pachigaro. Let's take a short break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. when we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. We are also live on YouTube, VOA Zimbabwe. Today on Live Talk Diaspora Forum, we are discussing the rejection by some Zimbabweans of the proposals to extend President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term of office beyond his mandated term that ends in 2028. To discuss this, we are joined by Mr. Lawrence Tafadzwa Ruwende, who is the president of Zimbabwe Economic Freedom Fighters Alliance, or ZEFA, and is based in Kuwait, and also Dr. Simba Mavaza, a political analyst and ZANU-PF member who is based in Britain. We are expecting to be joined later by war veteran, that's Mr. Blessed Rinesu Geza. He is in Zimbabwe. We are expecting that he will join us soon. But let me start with you, Dr. Mavaza. Dr. Mavaza, we have heard Zimbabweans openly rejecting the 2030 calls. What do you think about this open rejection of the extension of President Mnangagwa's term?
Good evening, Jonga, and good evening, Zimbabwe. The first thing we must appreciate is that Zimbabwe is a democratic country. So those who are rejecting the 2030 term are within their right. ZANU-PF is not an autocratic party. It is a democratic party. ZANU-PF is the party which fought for democracy in Zimbabwe and for the right to vote, the right to be heard. So any Zimbabwean, anyway, if they don't feel like they want the 2030 movement to go ahead, or they don't want to support the president beyond 2028, they have a right to say so. It does not show a divided country, but it shows a democratic nation where it is actually allowing its people to voice their concerns and to say and to speak up loudly. So yes, we will always have a lot of people who will support the drive for 2030, and
yes, and before you go any further, Dr. Mavaza, we've noticed that the majority of Zimbabweans are on the rejection side. They are saying no to the extension. Are you going to honor the majority vote, since you said you are a Democratic Party?
I don't know which referendum you have done, which shows you that the majority says no. What you know, we've got some people saying no, some people saying yes. There's been no referendum yet, so there's no official gauge to say how, whether the majority is on the other side or not. So we cannot stay here and say the majority says no, because the majority has not spoken yet. Nobody, people are speaking in different medias and social medias, but that does not reflect the majority of Zimbabwe. The majority of Zimbabwe will be seen when this issue is tabled and taken to referendum.
Thank you so much.
What you should know before I go is that the president himself had said more than 10 times that he will not go beyond 2028. And so far, he has not changed his stand. So we would then have to see if the president says now he wants to. But as for now, the president does not like 2030, is on the side of those who are saying 2028 and no more.
Thank you so much. Please just on the line, Dr. Mavaza. Mr. Ruwende, we understand you are against the extension of the presidential term. Tell us what exactly you are against here.
Thank you very much. First of all, let's understand what is democracy. Democracy has given us an opportunity to design a constitution a constitution that clearly states that a president should only stay for 2 terms. And at the same time, if he wants to amend the same constitution in terms of the term limits, he is not going to be the beneficiary to those term limits, especially the Abdullahi Wade amendment. Why? It's because these dictators, they have the same tendency of trying to extend the term limits to benefit themselves. Kaguta Museveni did the same thing. Why the amendment itself is called Abdullahi Wade? Because he did the same thing. They will say, no, I don't want, but the people want. But at the same time, we know what happens in the election. A referendum is still an election. We still have disputed elections. In 2023, 2018, we had disputed elections. So why would we subject ourselves to another election, yet we haven't healed from the past 2 elections? And why would a president or the people surrounding the president would want to extend the term limits? Hence, we have 17 million Zimbabweans who can lead Zimbabwe. There's not only one person who can lead Zimbabwe. It's democracy, but we still haven't understand what is democracy. We are 43 years old. Zimbabwe is 43 years old. So let's say people, they want Emerson Mnangagwa. The people around him want Emerson Mnangagwa. But there are so many factors that they did not look at. How much does it cost to run a referendum? And do we have medicine in the hospitals? We don't have. Why don't we take that money and put it on the health system? Why don't we take that money and do something better for the benefit of the people?
Thank you so much, Mr. Ruende.
A term limit for a president.
Thank you, Mr. Ruende. Let's hear from Dr. Mavaza. Respond to what Mr. Ruende just said. He says, are you going to consider the cost of running a referendum and all the other implications?
Yes, Mr. Ruende, you should realize that democracy is not cheap. Democracy does not come cheaply. It came after a lot of blood, sweat, and guns. And then for it to be implemented, it has costs. We have to sacrifice our liberties or to sacrifice our money. So in this case, it is right to sacrifice the money. Going through a referendum, it is a requirement of the Constitution, and therefore it is a democratic step to take, because democratically you have to follow the given laws. So yes, there are given laws to say if you want to change the Constitution, especially on the section of the term of the president, there has to be a referendum. So whatever amount is cost for referendum, we must appreciate, Mr. Chiwende, that there is monies which is budgeted for every aspect of life of governance. So the money put aside for constitutional reviews and constitutional amendments, that budget can never be used to buy hospital beds or to buy cars. It is entirely used for that purpose. If it does not get used for that purpose, it will be moved on to the next year for the same purpose. And therefore, we would have lost nothing if there is money paid for the referendum. Neither would we gain nothing if that money is kept. So in other words, the referendum is actually a clear democratic move to show that we are not doing it as ZANU-PF. Yes, ZANU-PF is running, is forwarding this aspect of 2030, but it is not ZANU-PF's choice whether the president goes in beyond 2028. It is the choice of the people of Zimbabwe. That's why a referendum will be called for. It will be calling every Zimbabwean, regardless of your political party. Even though we've seen a CCC led by Chabangu advocating for the president to stay until 2030. But we are saying in ZANU-PF, we are not all agreeing because we are democratic. We are hearing each other's view. We put them together. It will go to a vote.
Thank you. Dr. Mavaza, please let me cut you short. We have a caller. Hello?
Hey, Magadigo.
Magadi Baba.
Tinofara Magadio.
Takasimba ndiana avo.
Awa ndisachiwezi awa.
Muri kupi?
Now ndiri kuBotswana.
Botswana, taura itinzwe baba?
Izvo zviri kuita mukuru izvo zvekuda kuextenda kusvika 2030 izvo ngaambomire izvo zvobva tikataisa mumiriro wakaita nyika zvemai manje ka hazvitombonakidze kungotongorarama tiri kunze kwenyika zvisi zvinhu zviri kutiitira because kunokwacha titonopisa kanya tinoshuvirewo kuti kunyika kwedu kugadzirikira zvinhu zvakanaka manje kana vanosvika 2030 panguva yacho yaakatonga patutemza hachina chinobatika chinooneka munyika macho magetsi hamuna mvura everything vanonogara kunana grenziko chichingowerera suweji pese pese tinenge tungojamba chisuweji saka tione zviri zvinhu zvakanaka zvaakuita ngaambomire nhau idzodzo dzaakaita dza2030.
Asi mukuru musati maenda kune vamwe vari kuti vana veZimbabwe muri kuda kuti zvinhu zvigadziriswe asi muri kunze kwenyika zvinogadziriswa nani? Pindurai tinzwe.
Ipapo kutobuda kunze kwenyika naye kuti unotoona kuti munyika macho handisi kwasonge ndichichera mhuri because tetine mhuri nevabereki vatetina vanenge vada kuchengetwa nesu vakatirerawo saka vakutaisirawo something kubva kwatiri saka izvozvo hatina tatokwanisa kuwapa nenhaka tiri mukati menyika saka kutobuda kunze kwenyika uku nhaye dzekunge tichitsvagorarama kuti vabereki vakwanise kurarama nemhuri dzatetinadzo.
Thank you so much mukoma maita basa zvikuru. Thank you so much. Dr. Mavaza, sorry I interrupted you because we wanted to pick our caller. You can continue 30 seconds.
Yes, I was saying in summary, the costs if people are afraid of are called the costs for democracy. And therefore, democracy does not mean that ZANU-PF chooses and does what it wants. ZANU-PF can decide what it wants to do, but that is ZANU-PF. But if it is going to affect the nation, the whole nation is involved. That's why you can see there are members of ZANU-PF who are not agreeing with what is happening, and there are members who are agreeing.
Thank you.
That ZANU-PF is split. It's not. It's simply exercising its democratic values, which it fought for.
Thank you so much. Varuende tombouya kwamuri taure nerurimi rwaamai. Takanzwa vakarwa hondo yerusununguko mapoka maviri musi wemuvhuro nemusi wechipiri vachirambawo ihwo urongwa hwekuti vaMunangagwa vange vachiramba vari pachigaro kusvika 2030. Munoona sei danho iro rakatorwa nevakarwa hondo yerusununguko nekuti tinoona kuti vamwe vevanhu vanoremekedzwa muurongwa hweZANU-PF nemunyika?
Ndinotenda kuti vakasimuka vakataura kuti havawirirani nekuextendwa kwematemu apresident Emerson Mnangagwa nekuda kwekuti vaMnangagwa havasirivo vega vakarwira Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe yakarwirwa nemadzitateguru edu nanababa vedu nanasisi vedu nanamukoma vedu. Chinangwa chiri chei chekuti munhu mutema azvitonge, and we do actually recognize that ZANU-PF is the custodian of that liberation struggle. Zvichireva kuti vakarwira isu vana vatema, zvavakarwira isu vana vakatema, ngatichiitai majana kuti nyika yacho ifambe. Hatingamborambi takamira panzvimbo 1 takamiswa nemunhu mumwe chete ari kuda iye kutonga kana vari mumasaidi make vachida kungoti iye atonge, nekuti ticharamba tiine idea 1 asi tikapanana mukana Zimbabwe yacho inovakika kana ikonomi yacho inokura, nekuti mukaramba muine munhu 1 which means masystem haambofa akachinja, maidea hacho akachinja, ende tikada kuramba tiri ipapo chazoita kuti tisvike patiri pano inyaya yekuda kwekuti tanga tiina Robert Mugabe akaita 43 years ari muoffice with ideas haana kuchinja for 43 years. Zimbabwe is behind with 43 years. So asidai takazvitanga kare zvokuchinja mapresidents with 2 terms, Zimbabwe ingade iri kumberi. Singapore gained independence almost the same time with Zimbabwe, but Singapore is better than Zimbabwe, but Singapore has had nothing than Zimbabwe as compared to Zimbabwe. Saka toramba here tiri panzvimbo 1 nekuda kwekuti paita vamwe vari kutaura kuti ngaaramba achitonga.
Thank you so much.
MuZimbabwe.
Thank you. Rambai muri parunhare varuende. Ndodzoka kwamuri, rambai muri parunhare. Dr. Mavaza nerurimi rwaamai. Okay, rambai muri parunhare vaMavaza. Taita muteereri. Hello?
Muribwe.
Tiripo makadii?
Tiripo musei.
Ndakasimba. Muri kufona muri kupi?
Tiri kuDubai.
KuDubai. Tipei tinzwe pfungwa dzenyu.
Tokochiya takatongoti Dubai.
Tipei tinzwe pfungwa dzenyu.
Zvingoripona zvekuti ndedika nyika yedu haina zviripo ngaingota zviripo tiri kungomanikidzana. Ukadasa population yenyika dzakabuda ukatarisa population muAfrica dziri kwenyika wotarisa population yeZimbabwe is too much. Ukatarisa maroad block ari muroad is too much. Ukatarisa kuita chose chaunoita chisi chinofanira kunge chine zano mukati. Saka hapana kwatiri kuenda. Gedhi ngavabvume ngokura vosiyirawo vadiki voitawo vanoona. Nyembe kutambidzana haungaiti nyembe ruwani.
Asi nyembe iyo yakatambidzanwa vadiki varoda kuipiwa vakati aiwa mukuru tanga yemapedza zvamaamatanga pane chakaipa here?
Mukuru haana dzainadzo rotivhara. Pekutanga vakabudisa mari achinoshanda yairova mari yairova maranzi but wonaiko zvavo. Saka tiri kuite.
Aiwa tinotenda zvikuru mukoma Dubai. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Mavaza, I'm coming to you. Time is now almost running out. You heard from our callers and also what Mr. Ruende said. What's your response to that?
Zvakanaka baba, muchidimbu muchivanhu tauti tinzwisise kuti mhirizhonga iri kuitika munyika yeZimbabwe yekuti abata mupfupi abata mukobvu nenyaya yekuti vamunangagwa vatonge kwenguva yakareba. Aiwa zviri kungoitika ndezvekuti vanhu vari kuisa pfungwa dzavo nemaonero avo avari kuita kuna vamunangagwa. Mukati mebato reZANU-PF kune vazhinji vari kuti aiwa hazviite ngatirambe tichitedzera mutemo wenyika. Ndosaka muri kuona vanomiririra vanhu mumaparamende vari kuedza kuti kutangwe nharo dzekuti president varamba varipo here kana kuti voregedza. Uyezve vanhu vari kutyira kuti kana tikapinda mumareferendum anogona kurigwa kana kuti mari inopera. Chokwadi ndechekuti kana tapinda mureferendum mavhoti maviri kana kuti kwete haakwanise kurigika zvekumhanya. Saka chokwadi chinobuda pachena. Izvo zviri pamusoro zvokuti vana veZimbabwe garai makaziva chinhu. President Mnangagwa vakati havadi kuenda ku2030 vanoda kugumira 2028. Basa ravo ravari kuita vari kuti ivo hakuna chavachaita in 2 years chavakatadza kuita in 10 years. Saka vamwe vari kuti vaMnangagwa vaendere be2030 mafungiro avo uyezve vanobvumirwa neZANU-PF nebumbiro remutemo weZANU-PF.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Ruende, your last word. Are we going to see President Mnangagwa honoring his promise to step down in 2028?
I do not see that happening because Abdullahi Wade did the same thing. Kaguta Museveni izvezvi akagara pachigaro chokutonga nekuti akawedzera akatobvisa term limit provision muconstitution haisisimo nekuda kwekuti akatanga achiti vanhu ndo zvavari kuda zvakadzi vanhu ndo zvavari kuda iye akazoti vanhu ndo zvavada. But if we look at it vanhu hatina kuti tiri kuda kuti Mnangagwa atonge tinotenda kuti akagara pachigaro kwemakore iwayo akagara.
Varuende ipapo ndikubatei muromo ndo panzina vaMavaza pachanzwikwa kana kwaendwa kureferendum.
Inzwaika ngatitaurirane chokwadi varume. Ngatisarove imbwa takaviga mupini tichiti ngadei kureferendum. Takambogadzira constitution iyi tichiita kuti zvinoda kuitika zvisaitiki.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ruende. Thank you so much. Time is not on our side. We would like to thank our guests, Mr. Lawrence Tafadzwa Ruende, the president of Zimbabwe Economic Freedom Fighters Alliance, or ZEFA, who is based in Kuwait, and Dr. Masimba Mavaza, a political analyst and ZANU-PF member based in Britain. That brings us to the end of our show tonight. Signing off in Washington, I'm Jonga Kandemiri.